Happy Cinco de Mayo. It's Tuesday, May 5th, 5/5/26. Anyway, I am getting ready for my episode. I got a couple of things. I got a banger this week. We're talking about the Met Gala. We're not talking about fancy outfits, but we're talking about $42 million raised in 24 hours. That's real. It's real power. It's incredible. It's a record set for the Met Gala. Only thing came close was 2025, where they raised $31 million, which was still a record for that year. But anyway, we're about to jump into it. We're going to do an episode. I'm going to break it down. In the meantime, I'm switching things up. Typically, I would shoot with, what was I using before? I was using Zoom, and the picture resolution was a wackadoodle. So I'm going to be switching up to OBS Studio. So you're seeing a little behind the scenes before the action here. So I'm going to do a test run on my OBS, get us started. We're going to talk about the Met Gala. In the meantime, I'm going to flip over. You're going to see me flip over while I do the OBS. I'm going to drop a shout out. But you'll see how it's going to happen. Now, let me take care of this, then I'm going to do that, and then we'll get into the Met Gala. All right, hold on. I'm over there trying to figure out my OBS. I'll be starting the episode in a minute, but I got the new OBS Studio. I was doing the stream at first on StreamYard. Then I moved over to Riverside. Then I was doing on Zoom. Now I'm going to do OBS Studio, just the high-res color, whatever. All those things to say, sometimes it seems as if your processes, your workflows, your business, sometimes your life is always in renovation. You're always renovating. And as tired as it may be, it's tiring as it may be, sometimes that's the cost of excellence. Sometimes that's the cost of success. Anyway, I was reminded of it this morning. I got on this call, 6:45 a.m. Was it Millionaire Mindset call as part of this thing? Donnie Wiggins hosts it. It's part of Social Proof Circle. Check it out. I think it's a weird URL. It's like social-proof-circle.co or something super long. Anyway, maybe I'll leave it in the description so you don't have to figure it out. All that to say is this is a pretty dope community. I'll leave the link in the description. If you got the millionaire mindset, might be somewhere you might want to be. I don't know how much. I used to pay $4.99 a month for that sort of mindset call. It wasn't even every day, it was like twice a week. Then the group, they paid $4.99. I think this is just $97. So I'm in. Anyway, just wanted to drop a note about that, or whatever, a vid, get in it, Social Proof Circle. Anyway, I think the OBS thing is loaded. We're back. We're gonna do this episode on the Met Gala. Really, even it's not going to be about clothes. So if you want to see the ladies in the clothes, it's another video. We're talking about the business model and how they raised $42 million without ever saying a word. You don't even know what happened. They got $42 million in the bag. Let's go break it down. All right. Here's the GRZY. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Happy Cinco de Mayo. But we're not talking about margs or tacos. We're talking about cash money. How much money? $42 million. How the Met Gala model. So much money, I'm stuttering. You don't even know. You're too busy. You're looking at the dresses. You're looking at the nice ladies. You're looking at Doechii. You seen Doechii? I know you were looking at Doechii. You animals. Anyway, nice pictures. But the real press, the thing that nobody's really talking about is the Met Gala raised a record $42 million in a single evening. The previous record, previously last year was $31 million set back in 2025. Not your typical fundraiser. See, there's no donation ask on the program, no gala chairs reading from a script about the mission. You don't even know what mission it is. No guilt-driven video package about the cause. Yet It's one of the most effective fundraisers in the world by a margin that most nonprofits, most brands, most community organizations can't even begin to come close. So, this episode, we're going to dig in. We're going to break down the business architecture behind this result, this 5 structural pillars that transform a fundraising event into a cultural phenomenon. Billionaires beg to sponsor, celebrities compete to attend, and billions of people just watch in real time and follow. The goal is not to admire the model. The goal is to reverse engineer it, show how any brand, non-profit builder or community organizer can apply these same 5 pillars to their own business model and scale their own resources and build this same type of movement that people fight to be a part of. Money follows culture. Culture doesn't follow money. This episode, we're going to show how you build the culture first. All right? Get ready. Time. This is the GRZY. All right, let's dig into it. I've been doing enough jabbing. You get it. Met Gala was last night. You're looking, you're talking about the outfits and all that other good stuff. Forget about it. The number's $42 million. That's what they took home that night. That was the purse. That was the VIG. Metropolitan Museum of Art. They raised money. The single event started in 1948. So now, fast forward, $42 million one evening. The year before that, $31 million. That was also a record. The year before that, another record. On and on and on. You get the point. The whole point of it is the Costume Institute at the Met. They needed money. They've built this machine that produces more money every year reliably than almost any other fundraising event on the planet. Nobody in that room was asked to give. Nobody wrote a check because they saw a sad video. Nobody felt guilty or guilt-tripped into contributing. Celebrities paid $100,000 per ticket and felt grateful to do it. Jeff Bezos, I think he spent somewhere between 10 to 20 million all in to be the honorary chair and lead sponsor. He didn't negotiate the price down or have to be talked into it. See, this dynamic where the donor is grateful to the fundraiser is not the other way around, is the most counterintuitive but most powerful thing about the things we're going to cover in this episode. Once you understand how it works, you can apply it to your business, your organization, your brand, your community at any scale. The sections today, 5 sections. We'll first talk about how the Met Gala model actually works, the 5 structural pillars that produce the event every year. Then we'll talk about who else has done it successfully and why most organizations fail when they even try. And then last, we'll talk about how you can do this for what you're building, no matter what category you're in. All right? You ready? Buckle up. Let's get into it. All right. First, we'll talk about the 5 pillars of the Met Gala model. So, the Met Gala is not a fundraiser that just happens to be glamorous. It's a cultural event that happens to collect money. The order of operations is the experience first, the ask second, or really never, is the entire model. So once you see how it works, you can't unsee it. So there's 5 structural pillars. Each one is deliberate, each one reinforces the others, and together they produce this result that feels effortless from the outside. You don't even know it's happening. And that's exactly the point. Let's start. A ticket to the Met Gala costs $100,000. That's what you would call radical exclusivity. That number went up $25,000 from the previous year. A table is $350,000. You can't even buy your way in. So I mean, it's almost you almost get lost looking at the numbers because that's not really the point. The point is the list. It's a curated list. You can't just because you have money be able to buy a table. It's a curated room, and so there's a waiting list, and so there's people who could easily write a check that are kept waiting years for the invitation. So here's the mechanism. When something is genuinely hard to get into, the desire to get in becomes the marketing. The Met doesn't need to advertise the gala. Exclusivity is the advertisement. Every person who did not get an invitation creates demand for the next one. Every person who did get an invitation, they become a walking signal, a walking billboard of just how much it's worth to get into that gala. So you got these access economics. Let's call them access economics. $10,000 per ticket in 2026, up from $75,000 from the previous year. $350,000 per table. Jeff Bezos, he paid somewhere around $10 to $20 million for the honorary chair just to be in the position of lead sponsor status. So that demand increases the price every year. And here's the thing. And here's why you're not getting it. Most organizations are afraid to be exclusive. They worry about who they're leaving out. The Met Gala understands that the exclusivity is not cruelty. It's the mechanism that makes the event worth getting into in the first place. Scarcity creates desire. Desire creates leverage. That's the first pillar. Second pillar is this piece about being a unifying theme that demands participation. So, this year, the theme was fashion is art, right? The dress code asked the attendees to interpret the idea of fashion as an embodied art form. Every guest showed up with a creative response to that prompt. And so here's what that theme does that most people miss. It converts the attendees from passive audience into active participants. At a typical gala, you arrive, you sit at the table, you listen to the program, you applaud, me. That's nice. At the Met Gala, you are the content. Your outfit is a submission to the theme. You are a collaborator at the event, not just a witness to it. See, that shift from audience to participant that is the difference between an event people attend and an event people are invested in. When people contribute to something creatively, they care about it. They are invested in the outcome. They talk about it. They post about it. They become unpaid marketers of the moment. They help create it. Anyway, either you get it or you don't. Pillar 3, co-chair power. Share the power. In 2026, co-chairs were Beyonce, Nicole Kidman, and Venus Williams, plus Anna Wintour, the permanent anchor, Anna Wintour. Anyway, Beyonce had not walked the Met Gala red carpet in 10 years. She showed up with GRZY and Blue Ivy. That alone generated more media coverage than most organizations could earn in a decade. The co-chairs are not decoration. They are distribution infrastructure. The co-chair brings their entire audience, the people who follow them, who care about what they do, who will pay attention to anything they're attached to, into contact with the Costume Institute and its mission. Anna Wintour has done this for decades. She recruits people who have built their own cultural gravity. then borrows that gravity for the night. See, most organizations treat celebrity partnership as a marketing tactic. The Met Gala, they treat them as a structural pillar of the business model. The co-chairs are not asked to show up. They're recruited because of a specific audience they bring and a specific story they tell. The difference between a tactic and a pillar is whether it's optional. You get it? Anyway, enough. Let's move on. Pillar number 4. Media as infrastructure. So the Met Gala doesn't buy media coverage. It manufactures this event that demands attention. The red carpet is content. The outfits are content. The social reactions are content. The entire world debating what people wore afterward for 48 hours is content. And none of that costs the Met $1 in advertising. The event is designed so that covering it is irresistible because the content creates itself. Every publication, every creator, every person with a following has an incentive to participate in the conversation because their audience is already there. The Met does not pitch journalists. The gala pitches itself. Anyway, media footprint. The 2026 Met Gala generated billions of social media impressions in the 24 hours surrounding the event, with zero paid promotion by the Metropolitan Museum. The press does not cover the fundraiser. They cover the spectacle. The fundraising inside is just an add-on. Anyway, enough about that. Pillar number 5. Brand adjacency, monetization. See, fashion houses, luxury brands, corporate sponsors, they don't just donate to the gala. They pay for the right to be associated with the cultural moment. They're not buying a table at a charity dinner. They're buying proximity to the most photographed, most discussed, culturally resonant event of the year. This is why the gala nets far more than an average fundraiser. A typical nonprofit gala converts 30 to 40% gross revenue in proceeds. The rest covers the cost of putting on the event. Met Gala inverts this. Brands pay to sponsor the event, subsidizing the operation costs, so that the ticket revenue flows almost entirely to the Costume Institute itself. Sponsors don't see it as charity. They see it as one of the best marketing instruments in luxury. The Met has figured out something that most nonprofits spend decades trying to learn. If you make your event glamorous enough, your venue costs become someone else's advertising budget. Jeff Bezos didn't pay $20 million to feel good about art. He paid $20 million to sit next to Beyonce in photographs and circulate them. No, let me rewind that. I'll say that again. He paid $20 million to sit next to Beyonce in photographs that will circulate for years. The Met just sold him that seat and used the money to fund the Costume Institute. That's not fundraising. That's architecture. Anyway, enough about that. Let's go on to the next section. Let's take a look at some people who've done it well and some people who haven't. The 5-pillar model is not unique to the Met Gala. There's organizations that have taken the same blueprint and built their own version of it. And there are organizations that have tried and failed. And the difference between the two groups is almost always in which pillar they skip. Let me start with talking about who's got it right. See, AMFAR. the Foundation for AIDS Research. They run a Cinema Against AIDS at Cannes Festival every year. Same model, different vertical. Radical exclusivity. Cannes is already the most exclusive film festival in the world, and Amfar's dinner is even harder to get into than the festival itself, unifying the theme: cinema, AIDS advocacy, and the intersection of art and justice. Co-chair power, A-list actors, directors, global icons who bring their specific audience to the cause. Media as infrastructure. Cannes is a global media event. Amfar simply inserts itself into the coverage. And brand adjacency, so fashion brands and jewelry houses pay significant money to be in those photographs. Amfar, $250 million raised over the life of the event, using near identical model to the Met Gala, anchored at Cannes, sustained by the same 5 pillars. The foundation did not invent the model. They recognized it, adapted it, and applied it to their cause. The CFDA and Vogue Fashion Fund is another example. A grant program for emerging designers turned into an annual cultural event that generates media coverage, attracts industry figures, has made the grant itself more coveted prize than any platform around it. The award is the same. The event architecture around the award has changed everything. Now is who's getting it wrong and why. Because most organizations try this model and fail. And the failure patterns are remarkably consistent. Failure pattern number 1, they skip exclusivity. Open invite events dilute perceived values, and the minute you try to get as many people as possible through the door, you have told the market that this event is not worth competing to attend. Exclusivity is not optional in this model. It's essential. Failure pattern number 2. They don't give attendees a creative role. Passive audience watches the event, and active participation requires investment. If your guests can dress however they want and sit wherever they're assigned and listen to the program, they're attending your event, not creating it. Theme pillars exist to make every person a collaborator. Failure pattern number 3. They chase sponsors before building the cultural moment. Sponsors pay attention or pay for proximity to attention. If you've not built the attention first, you were just selling nothing. The Met Gala didn't launch with major sponsorships. It built the cultural event first over decades, and the sponsorship dollars followed the audience. Money follows culture. You can't sell adjacency before you build a moment. Failure pattern number 4, they lead with the ask. Most counterintuitive pillar of the entire model is that the Met Gala almost never explicitly asks for money during the event. The mission is present. The Costume Institute is in the context, but the evening, is about the experience. The fundraising is structural, not pitched. The moment you lead with the need, you've transformed an exciting cultural event into a reminder of the obligation. The Met, it leads with the moment, and the moment does the fundraising. Organizations that fail with this model typically skip 1 or 2 or more of those pillars and then wonder why the result doesn't look like the Met Gala. The pillars aren't independent. They compound with each other. One makes the other more powerful. Removing one just weakens the whole structure. Anyway, let's take a break from for our sponsor thing to pay some bills, all right? All right.
You ready?
Back again. It is the incredible Rhyme Animal. What's happening? All right, we're almost done here. We're at the last leg. We're just going to look at how do you apply this framework to your world. We're going to look at these 5 pillars, scale down to see how entrepreneurs, nonprofits, creators, community organizers can each adapt these pillars to their context, their budget, without needing the Met's level of resources. See, here's the thing. Most people respond by saying, oh, it's great for the Met Museum. They've got all this capital. They've got all the infrastructure. For me, I've got 6 employees and 600 followers on Instagram. What does it have to do with me? That's my interpretation of the complaining entrepreneur. It's got everything to do with you because the 5 pillars are just not about scale. They're about structure. The Met has more resources, but the blueprint works at any size. Let me just walk you through each pillar and just show you what it looks like at the ground level. So let's take pillar 1, radical exclusivity at your scale, your annual event, your product launch, or your community gathering, whatever. Doesn't need to be invite only to be exclusive. It needs to be curated. Limit the list intentionally, not to be difficult, but because smaller and more selective signals higher value. If anybody with $50 can come, the people who spend $500 on a ticket won't. Scarcity and curation are a mindset, not a budget item. Pillar 2, a unifying theme. At your scale, give your event a dress code, a creative prompt, a challenge, or a theme that requires attendees to participate, not just show up. Make them collaborators in the experience. The theme doesn't need to be elaborate. It needs to give people something to engage with before they arrive, something to contribute to when they do. Anyway, pillar 3, co-chair power. At your scale, you don't need Beyonce. You need the most respectable voice in your specific community. Someone whose endorsement signals to your audience that this event is worth attending. That person might be a local business owner, might be a respected creator, might be a pastor or a civic leader. But their credibility is the distribution. Find the person whose name makes your audience pay attention and build a partnership. Pillar 4, media as infrastructure. At your scale, design the event so that attending it creates content your guests want to share. The moment, the visual, the experience, all of it should be share-worthy. You're not hiring a photographer, you're building a content engine. Every guest with a phone is a distribution channel designed for them. And finally, number 5, brand adjacency. At your scale, ask who benefits from being associated with your community, your event, your audience. Those are your sponsors, not corporate charity targets, but businesses for whom proximity to your community is a genuine marketing investment. Frame the sponsorship conversation accordingly. We do not need support. But here is the audience you get to be in front of, and here is what that association is worth. Listen, that's a core shift. The average fundraising event leads with the mission and hopes money will follow. The Met Gala leads with the experience, and the money is structural. Leading with the mission works for obligation, but leading with the experience works for desire. Desire scales. Obligation plateaus. Obligation fades out. What would you like your version to look like? Not what can you afford to produce. What kind of moment can you design that people in your world would compete to be inside of? Start there and work the 5 pillars backwards from that vision. The Met Gala has been doing this since 1948. It took decades to build the machine they have now. But the blueprint doesn't take decades to understand. It takes one episode. Listen, you're already ahead of where they started. So this is the time. Design your moment. Here's the move for this week. One question, one exercise, one conversation. The question, what is the Met Gala for your world? Not a literal gala. A moment, an event, a launch, a gathering, a drop, a community ritual that people in your specific orbit would compete to be inside of. Not something everyone can access. Something people talk about because they want it. What is the thing people are going to talk about and feel great because they went? And what are the people going to talk about because they feel awful because they didn't? What is that thing for you? So, the exercise. Take the 5 pillars and score your last event. Or the one you're planning, honestly. Exclusivity. Was it curated or was it open? Theme. Did it give people a creative role or were they just an audience? Co-chair. Did you recruit a respected voice or did it go alone? Media, did it attending it create content that people wanted to share? Brand adjacency, did you approach sponsors as marketing partners or as donors? Score yourself. The gaps. The gaps are the blueprint. The conversation. Find the most culturally credible person in your specific community, your Beyonce at your scale. Start the conversation, not a pitch. A conversation about a moment that you're trying to build and the role that they could play in it. The co-chair pillar is the hardest to fake and the most powerful when it's real. So, one question, one exercise, one conversation. The Met Gala raised $42 million because someone did all 3 and kept doing it for 78 years. You don't need 78 years. You need to start. Anyway, 42 million one night. No one wrote a check because they felt obligated. They wrote a check because they wanted to be in the room. Build the room first. The money follows the room. Anyway, this is all you get from me. Mickey Black. This is the GRZY. See you next week. Get out of here.